Good morning, Bobby.
Morning, my love.
How are you?
Really good, thank you. How about yourself?
I'm not too bad. Like you said, I think we've enjoyed the one day of summer.
Yes.
But I'm so happy to be here and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's an absolute pleasure.
So, first of all, what we want to do with this podcast, I don't know how much you know about Outlet 10 discussions, but essentially we want to bring more attention to mental health. Now, that's a buzzword. Loads of people are talking about it at the moment. But what we wanted to do was get real people on the couch to kind of share their experiences that have been influenced by their journey, but also with a background of mental health and how you've managed to manage your mental health throughout your long and amazing career. So what we want to do is start at the start. Who is Bobby Norris? How did he grow
up? Who is Bobby Norris? Oh, gosh. So I grew up, and I'm really happy about this when you look back, because obviously I'm 37, and I think when I look to what people have at school now, so like the next generation coming up, it's almost like a different world. It feels like it's 337 years ago since I went to school. And I think whatever age you are, I'm sure if you was 57, 87, we all went through our own things through school, like whatever it may be. But we never had the pressures of social media or anything like that. And I think being a teenager's hard enough, like your hormones start kicking in, you're going through changes. And I look at the kids today and young adults, and I'm like, gosh, you've got it so much harder because... and I love social media, and I always like to put that out there as a disclaimer, because I never want to see like I'm bashing it, but there is a dark side to social media. And I think that's why for the last 6 years, maybe 7, I've gone down the route of kind of campaigning against kind of when it comes to trolling and stuff. Now, I'm certainly not taking away freedom of speech. No one has more opinions than me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
You literally became famous for them.
Yeah, exactly. I've got no problem in having opinions, and I don't expect or demand everyone to like me, love me. It's not that at all. I think if you don't like my hair, you don't like my teeth, you don't like my voice, that's absolutely fine. Because in life, we have to realise as well, and again, going back to kids today, I think we're in a generation of everything's all about likes on social media. And I can imagine they're comparing, oh, her photo got this, his photo got that. Yeah. Who's got this many followers? You get to a point in life, and I think I really noticed it when I turned 30, that you kind of become more comfortable in your own skin. Of course, it's nice to be liked. I'm not saying that. I'm not going to be disingenuous, but I think you get to a point where you're comfortable in your own skin and you acknowledge that not everyone's going to love you, and that's fine. But I think there is a line when it comes to online comments that it does go into an abuse. And when it's death threats, I've had some of the most horrific... and I can't go into some of the stuff I've had, because there's dark and there's beyond dark. But I mean, I've had people being sat outside my apartment saying they're going to petrol bomb it, that they're going to stab me and slash me with a machete.
And you don't sign up for that. When you made your appearance on Towie, who would have ever thought that, you know, your personality or who you are, just being you, would invoke that reaction in people?
Yeah. And solely, and this is the really thing that blows my mind, is 99% of the online abuse that I receive from trolls is homophobic. And I still, like, in my head, because again, I've had years to, I started on Towie 13 years ago, I think now. So we're talking a long time. So I've had a long time to try and get my head around it, but it will never make sense. And I think the day it makes sense is a worry, because you can't reason with crazy. Yeah. Like it's just, I do see it that I almost pity them in a way, which I know sounds weird, but I'm a big believer. If you're truly happy in yourself, you don't fire off abuse and hatred to people. So hurt people. Yeah. So I believe anyone that's being that vile online needs to talk to someone, needs a hug, needs something, because something isn't going on deep down inside that's good. And that must be a way of rationale. Again, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not here to diagnose anyone's conditions.
Plot twist, I am.
So, but I would imagine that there's something going on there. So I pity them for that. And there are some amazing helplines out there. So do try and get in touch with people, because I think a lot of it's anger. But in terms of going back to the homophobic abuse and trolling, like for me, you can abuse me until I'm 98. God willing, I'm still alive at 98. What a random age to come out with. But do you think I'm then going to wake up with a wife when I'm 90?
Exactly.
At what point I'm going to go,
what does it achieve?
What does it achieve? Like, I'm going to open my phone one morning and go, so what, actually, I'm upsetting a few people out there because I'm a gay man. It's time to take a wife. It ain't going to happen, guys. So if that's what it is, and if that's the only thing you can abuse me for, what am I going to do? But I'm big enough and ugly enough to deal with that. Do you know what I mean? But I'm very aware 13-year-old Bobby wouldn't have been strong enough.
And I want to interject there, because you've said so many amazing things, literally, that I want to touch on. But, you know, going back to the initial question, obviously you mentioned 30, that like a lot of stuff kind of came into focus or started to make sense when you reached that milestone age.
Yeah.
You know, since you first appeared on our screens, what is the journey that you've been on to get to this place now where you can actually have pity almost for the people that give you hate online?
Do you know what? And it's not something that's happened overnight at all. I'll be honest, I didn't really know how to handle it in the early days, like the abuse. Yeah. If I'm being genuine, I was quite embarrassed, and I didn't speak about it for a while. Even though it's social media and it was so public, the world and his dog could see that I was getting this abuse for being a gay man. And I've always been very open about my sexuality. Exactly. I've got no shame in it, and I don't believe anyone should. Yeah. And that's how we evolve, and that's love is love. And I find it bizarre that in 2024 we're still having to preach.
Yeah. But if anything, I would definitely say, like, first of all, because of your position on Towie, and Towie being like almost the first like British reality TV show almost that was so consistently on TV, you as an openly gay man, if anything, like had so much influence on actually moving that needle forward. You were at the forefront almost.
Oh, absolutely. And that's what made it so worthwhile, because I would have loved to have had a show where I could relate to someone on screen when I was growing up. Because believe it or not, I'm 37, which, depending how old you are listening to this, you either got to think, some people, if you're older than me, you go, well, you're still really young. Yeah. If you're 90, you've got to go, oh, he's a bit older. You know what I mean? So wherever you are on the spectrum of it all. But when I was growing up as a teenager, there wasn't really, reality TV didn't exist. There was Big Brother, but people lived in a house for 6 weeks, 9 weeks, left, and then they chucked another 12 in. So there was no ongoing reality show. I think there was one soap that had one gay character. Yeah. Like, you just didn't really... You could count on one hand the amount of gay men on TV. And there was no one really to relate to. So I definitely, from when Towie started, it was such a phenomenon then. Like I can never say that. Phenomenon. Especially with a mouthful of veneers. I've just got no chance. But the messages I got from people and people's parents saying, thank you so much, honestly, you being so open and proud of who you are. Yeah. And for me, that's why it's so important, because everyone goes on a journey with their sexuality.
Well, we're all on a spectrum.
Yeah.
We're all on the spectrum somewhere.
on the spectrum, absolutely. Nicely put. And I think it's nice for people to have seen then, especially because no one was really, or a handful, as I say, to say, I'm an openly gay man, and I'm proud of it. If no one outed me, I didn't feel pressured to, because that's me, and I'm not ashamed of that. And I think that ruffled a few feathers, and I think that's kind of where the trolling started. Because some people was like, "Shit," sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. So
go for it.
But I think people was like, "Shit," like this geezer's quite openly just walking around on national TV. Yeah. Being honest about being a gay man, and some people were shook.
Yeah. Do you know what, Bobby, though? I feel like it's not even just about sexuality. I think especially what we see now more than ever is people are scared to be themselves, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And I think actually when you are like unapologetically proud of who you are, you know, obviously, like I said, we're all a work in progress. Yeah. You know, the Bobby that we saw in episode 1 was probably far less developed than you are now. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. That we're all kind of there. But I think because you've always been, you know, unashamed of who you are and so clear on, you know, your morals and your values, that offends people, that offends insecure people, and I think all this attention we see at the moment, whether that's about sexuality or, the argument about trans rights or race or politics, it's like they're trying to make everyone pick a side.
Yeah.
But actually, like you so clearly said, your sexuality is nobody else's business ultimately. Do you know what I mean? We should all just have more understanding and acceptance for who we all are.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also important for people out there that might be struggling with their sexuality and not knowing how they identify or even their gender.
Yeah.
Don't feel the need to rush in to put a label on you, because from people I speak to and from someone that's a gay man, when you feel the need, sometimes, again, can't speak for everyone and you get to certain points on your journey, but labels are more for other people. Worry about you at first. Find out who and what makes you happy, who you're into, what you like. I think that part, even though homophobia still exists, and sadly, I think as long as I'm walking this earth, I think there's going to be homophobia, which is sad. I think a lot of these phobias, and I hate the word phobia. You ain't scared of gay people. You ain't a
You're
phobia.
awfully obsessed with gayness to say you're fearful of it. It's strange.
Phobia. I've got a phobia of heights. Like, you ain't scared of a gay person. You ain't phobic. By the time I've then got into the career I'm in, 14 years, I'm like titanium. Like, it really doesn't bother me to the point, like when my head goes on my Egyptian cotton pillowcase at night, I'm not sleeping there worrying about what someone who lives in a cave or under a bridge, this troll, really abuses me and thinks of me. But so I thought, if I'm going to be open about it, so I went to the producers on Towerway, and because you kind of have check-ins with them in terms of, they'll go, what are you doing this week? Because obviously the nature of being an ongoing reality show, they like to know what's in your diary.
Lining things up.
Yeah, so I was like, look, I've been going through this a little bit. I haven't spoken about it. I've been a bit embarrassed, but I can't be the only person. And I want to do something about it. I'm going to try and change the law. And I think a few people looked at each other and thought, all right, Bob. And I was like,
watch me. Underestimate me and watch me.
But I'm one of them people, and I don't know why I'm like that, but I am what I am. It's in my DNA makeup. If you tell me I can't do something, you better believe I'm going to do it twice as good now, because I've got something to prove.
Yeah.
So I couldn't believe that we'd got to a place where, and in defence of parliaments and laws of the land, again, you can tell I don't know much about the lingo. I was never one of these boys I never grew up watching Question Politics. I don't even know what it's called. What's it called?
Question Time.
Prime Minister's Question
That's
Time.
it.
Do you know what I mean? I'm far more likely to be watching Keeping Up with the Kardashians. But so I wouldn't know where to begin. But I thought I'm gonna look into it.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's when I thought I'd do a petition, get a bill. So Taylor was like, right, if that's what you're going to be doing. So I remember sitting in my room, and I was on the old Google. Other search engines are available. Let's have it right. Google's the most famous
by Google,
one.
yeah.
So anyway, found this link, started this petition. So I said to Taylor, this is my petition. So I started putting it out on my social media. I was just getting tens of thousands of people signing it daily. And it just become that word I can't say again.
Phenomenon.
Yeah. And it becomes so huge that Parliament had to sit up and listen. It's reached so many. You've got to go to Downing Street and hand deliver this to the Prime Minister.
Go on, Bobby.
Who was Theresa May at the time. I know we've been through 54 since then, and that was only in 2023. And I think that's another misconception. A lot of people think it is just famous people and people in the public. It's really not. People are getting trolled. Everyone, it makes no odds what your career is, what your age is, what your gender is. It doesn't matter. So I thought, if it helps one person, and it did, and again, like me being so open about my sexuality, the messages I got from people going, oh my gosh, Bobby, thank you so much. I feel the shame as well. I feel embarrassed. And it kind of lifted the lid. And sometimes what you find in situations like this is that it takes one person to say, do you know what, this is happening to me.
Yeah.
And some people go, do you know what, he said it's not that shameful. I've had multiple messages from parents that have said their child took their own life because they was being trolled so bad on social media. Now, how sad. I mean, it's awful when anyone dies and takes their own life, of course.
Yeah.
But when a child's took their own life because someone was nasty on social media and nothing's being done about that, it's a waste of life. And I can't believe that nothing was in place to do anything about it. Social media is a relatively new beast.
100%.
When I started Terry, Twitter existed. There was no TikTok. I
don't think Instagram was
Instagram wasn't a thing. I think it was just coming into its infancy, like a year or two in.
Yeah.
But we was all on Twitter.
And you know what, Bob? I don't think it's even just social media. I think the world has changed so quickly that our human brains can't keep up or know what to be, how to act, what to say, what not to say.
No.
Do you know what I mean? So I think social media and the platforms are a intense version of what's going on generally in the world. Parents don't know how to parent anymore because a parent now, like you said, when I was growing up, I remember still having, plugging the internet in and the dial-up and telling them get off the phone.
Noise it used to make.
Exactly. But now it's in our hands. It's there all the time. Our brains haven't caught up with how to deal with this environment, this other world almost that's in our hands.
If someone come up to me outside Selfridges or on the Central Line and said they're gonna machete me, they're gonna petrol bomb me, they're gonna murder me on this Central Line, that's illegal. If you say it on the internet, there's no law. So the internet was lawless.
I think it's a really scary time almost for us, and especially I think age does have a big part to play in it, because kids these days, my nieces and nephews are exposed to so much at such a young age that the rest of us are still kind of trying to catch up and wonder how we can even support these people with what's going on when we don't understand ourselves.
Don't understand it. I've got so much empathy for parents. I mean, I'm not a parent, but it must be the most terrifying thing having a child at the moment.
Yeah.
Giving them their first mobile phone, knowing that the world of social media, what goes on there, even just down to take out getting the news from around the world, which it can be anxiety inducing in a child. I think it's anxiety inducing in a lot of adults. To be honest.
I feel like social media in a way is raising the children.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that's a worry.
And that's a real worry because, as adults, we're so, cost of living, God, we're on a right depressive today. But in terms of cost of living...
Sorry, guys. But that's the reality. It'd be lovely if we were sat here talking about rainbow shit and glitter.
Yeah. And I think, one thing that I definitely, to lighten the mood a little bit, would say about you, Bobby, is you are like a ray of sunshine.
Thank you,
your personality, and trust me, I know it's not easy also to keep that, positive outlook and be a character almost as well, because that's what I'm interested to getting to know a little bit more about you, is that, your larger than life personality. Have you always been like that? Who have you been influenced by on your journey?
So I've definitely always been like this. Like, I knew I was different from a very young age.
How did you know that?
Well, there was no real labels on it then. But I just knew that when I looked about, I just knew I was
special.
But I knew as age, again, I don't think we teach, kids don't know about sexuality, and I guess that's a whole debate in itself, really, because some people go, what age did you know? Well, I don't think as children you know about sexuality.
But I would also argue that your light and your aura, so to speak, we're moving into like the woo now.
Oh, I love the woo. All things spiritual, I love it.
Oh, perfect. Well, we'll get onto that. But your aura is far more than just your sexuality.
Oh, completely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like who you are as a person and why you're so, why you've been so successful and so magnetic. Your sexuality is probably one of the least interesting things about you as a person.
Completely. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Truly.
And remember that everyone, even these people that you're looking up to that have got the Birkins and they've got these multi-million-pound houses and their family empires and stuff, no one in the middle of a row with their fella or their other half goes, oh, let's put this on a story or do a TikTok here.
Yeah.
So everyone, it doesn't matter what motor you got, what house you got, what's in the wardrobe, like, people go through ups and downs. There's light and shade and there's good and bad days for everyone. And when you look at social media, I love social media, but looking at it, take it with a pinch of salt in terms of what you're going to see on someone's page. they're not going to necessarily put themselves in bed with the flu.
Yeah.
I mean, I would. I mean, I'm sat here doing a podcast. I do my radio showing bandages fresh out of
We're
surgery.
going to get onto that. We're going to get
Some
onto
people,
that.
but do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just a very, very open book.
Yeah.
But you don't ever in a row with your husband or your wife take a selfie of that and go, I'm going to whack that on the gram.
Totally.
Do you? So you're only going to see people's best bits. So when you're starting to get a little bit, you start comparing yourself and you feel a little bit down about things, just remember, do you know what, but what haven't we seen on social media? Because that's only one side of the coin, and every coin has two sides.
And I think it's so difficult. I mean, this is something that I, battle with my husband about, to be honest with you, in the sense of I feel we do have a responsibility. If you're going to be online and start showing more of your life, which is what we've started to do, you have to be authentic, because if I'm on there only showing the nice car or the day that we picked the car up, they don't know like the blood, sweat and tears that went into getting that.
Yeah.
And it gives people a false perception. And actually, in some ways, I think, you're encouraging hate, if you're only showing the perfect side of it, because times are hard out there. There's such a gap between reality and what the lives that people are actually living, that I think people in the public eye do have a responsibility to show it all, which is why I respect you so much for being so transparent. But I guess some people might ask the question, you are so comfortable in your own skin and you've been on this journey of self-discovery, how is it that you have still maybe felt the pressure or wanted to make adjustments to yourself cosmetically during this time?
Yeah, good question. I think for me, I am a completely open book. Things I've had done, I've always been 100% honest about, because I think that's really important. And again, this is just me personally. I don't judge anyone from any walk of life, whether you're in showbiz, whether you're not. If you want to keep things private, whatever. But for me, I think that I'm always very aware, and I think going back to when it comes to talking about the bullying, the trolling, and all that kind of stuff, and speaking about homophobia, I like to use my profile to raise awareness and to be authentic.
Yeah.
And I think it would be very disingenuous of me to go and have a new set of teeth done and then say, when someone goes, well, your teeth are looking really nice, a week later,
Colgate.
I found a lovely teeth whitening strip online.
Yeah.
I just think it's disingenuous.
And click the link to buy it.
Yeah. So for me, I would rather go, this is the reality. They're not real. And also, if you're having procedures done that would be unattainable, pretty certainly naturally, I think it's nice to give someone the heads up so they don't. Do you know? Like,
put that unrealistic pressure on
yeah,
themselves.
like if a girl goes and has a BBL done, I think. And again, if she doesn't want to do gym videos on social media and free squats in David Lloyd saying, getting that booty,
buy my booty plan,
and then goes and gets a BBL. Again, get your BBL, fine, but don't then be disingenuous about it, or just don't film in the gym.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So whichever way you want to do. And again, I'm not being shady. I'm not coming for anyone in particular, but I just think, for the younger, it's important for people, because there's so much pressure now on people today, and
on all of us,
on everyone. And I think for me, again, I just would never not be honest. I see no shame in it. I think surgery used to be a dirty word.
So talk to me about your journey with body image then, because obviously it's changed a lot over the years. And as I say, it's really clear that you've always known who you are. And a lot of the reason why I think a lot of people do get surgery is because maybe they don't know who they are. So for people who are watching this, who maybe have had procedures or thinking about procedures, what's been your story or motivation behind, changing your image over the years?
Yeah. So firstly, like as a disclaimer at the top of this, I'm certainly not sat here like ramming surgery down anyone's throat or promoting it. Absolutely, like everyone has to do what they want to do, and if you're gonna look into it, do your research, look into surgeons, all that good stuff. So for me, I started as we went into lockdown, so 2020, when Boris come on the old telly and said, right, 3 weeks lockdown,
Stay at home.
stay at home. I've never not worked for 3 weeks. Luckily enough, I've always been fortunate from school work and I've always worked. So I thought, gosh, 3 weeks. So I was a smoker at the time. And I thought, I'm going to try and give up smoking. I was looking at social media. Shock. There's a theme going on here. And everyone was either learning a language or making banana bread.
Yeah.
And I don't eat bananas.
Yeah.
And I did French for 5 years at school and could still only say bonjour,
Bonjour.
and Je m'appelle Bobby. So it didn't really work out for me. So I thought 3 weeks, I've got no chance.
What's going to be my challenge?
So I thought I'll give up, if I can give up smoking for 3 weeks, and then when I go back to work by week 4, I'll be a little bit healthier. Like a light switch clicked in my head. It all come at the right time for me. And obviously I wouldn't wish a global pandemic on the world for me to have that light switch click on. But I'm very big on taking a positive even from a dark situation. I think it's really important not to try and, even if it's really hard, take a lesson from it that you wouldn't do or learn. So this is the funny thing as well, because even though I'm very confident I can sit on live TV, live radio, when it comes to my career, confident as anything. But if you'd have seen me that day driving over to a gym, you wouldn't have thought I was the same person. Wow. So a little lesson in that is when you look at someone, you think, God, they're the most confident person in the world. They can sit and conduct themselves in an interview and do live TV and radio and stuff. Yeah. Everyone's got something that intimidates them. It doesn't matter.
We've all got demons that we have to battle with, right?
And I walked in there like I was a 6-year-old boy, terrified, shaky like a shitting dog, bowled in. And you know what? No one has been anything but lovely to me in that gym. No one's ever said anything nasty, made a derogatory comment. I love it, and it's my safe place now. In terms of the teeth, going back to the surgery thing, some people go, well, they're not very subtle. Well, hello. I'm not sure if you've been following me for a while, or if you know anything about it. But I wouldn't if you looked in a thesaurus and you looked at the word subtle, there wouldn't be a picture of Bobby Norris there. So I had them done. My nose I had done, but it doesn't really look much different. I had a little bit trimmed off the bottom.
Okay. You always had a small nose, though.
Always had a small nose. So my nose surgery was more because I had a deviated septum.
Okay.
So that was more for like functional reasons rather than cosmetic. I'm 6'2". I didn't want a little Tinkerbell nose. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? So I said to the surgeon, look, don't really make the nose look any different. Like, do what you got to do inside. And then I was involved in an accident in November, which I can't really talk about because it's an ongoing case. Okay. But a road traffic incident. And from the nature of my injuries, I couldn't drive. I was in a big leg splint, in and out of hospital and stuff. Oh. So I couldn't train. Couldn't do a lot of work.
So that's really important, because what's kind of coming to the surface for me, we spoke off camera as well, like, you know, you're a bit of a perfectionist. You do things well, you know, and you're quite regimented in your delivery of things. So I can imagine actually, you know, again, self-care is a buzzword and loads of people use that as like putting on a face mask. But it seems to me like the way your self-care is kind of almost investing in yourself and your appearance.
100%.
So that working out in the gym, I can imagine, was just like, if you couldn't work, that was your replacement. It became your focus during that time. So hearing about this accident, I can imagine that kind of just knocked your routine for 6 then.
Completely. And I definitely noticed, and again, I'd heard people speak back because I wasn't in the whole gym or sports culture, and I think that's important to add as well. I'd never grown up doing sports. You know what I mean? A lot of boys at my school was going up West Ham or White Hart Lane on a Saturday to watch the game. I was going River Island and shopping up Oxford Street, do you know what I mean, to Selfridges.
But it just shows that, you know, it's not about boxes. You can be so many different things.
Completely. So I think that's where the fear got, because I'd never really even been in a change, apart from the couple of times they made me do PE at school, like the outside one. And I remember getting really upset at secondary school when I had to do football, bought these lovely football boots. They didn't have all the colours like they had at the Euros, though. I'd have loved the pink and the orange ones. Me too. There's some lovely ones now. Them neons are lovely with a turn. Post-accident, where I wasn't able to drive, I wasn't really able to do a lot of my work in terms of my career. Okay. Managed to keep down bits and bobs, but I like to be busy. I like to give everything 110%. and I obviously couldn't train, and I've still not able to really train, not to where I was at. And I noticed my head started to go a little bit, and I think that's solely because that was taken away from me. That's my outlet, and I think if you struggle or you go through, find something. Now, I'm not saying everyone gym's gonna be your thing, because for some people it's not, and that's the truth. If you find something, like if you're having a little moment, just find something that can kind of centre you and just bring you down a little bit. My body was changing, and I didn't like what I saw.
Okay.
And because of the nature of my injury, I put on a little bit of weight, which is inevitable because I wasn't moving.
Yeah.
And I wasn't training. So I went and had surgery. And again, I thought I'm going to document it and be honest about it.
Yeah. Well, that makes real sense. I think, again, because you've been so open and transparent about the surgery that you've had, and there was like a bit of a media storm about that from what I see in terms of, having to deny that it was gender reassignment and stuff like that.
Bizarre.
But I think because you've been so open with that, and the media is so shallow, like whilst you might see the article, you're not seeing the story behind it. So that's really helpful. That makes crystal clear sense to me. You, throughout lockdown, working out and investing in your body image became your form of self-care.
Yeah.
When that was taken away from you, then, with this horrible accident, you then had to find other means to invest in your physical appearance, and in comes, the decision to maybe go for surgery to adjust the things that make you feel better in yourself.
Absolutely, yeah. That's so well put. It's 2020. Do you, if you ain't hurting anyone, do what you want to do. Because why are we worrying about people's opinions now? There's awful things going on in the world, and what are we really gonna care what everyone says about us?
Yeah,
we can't, because we
never
get anything done.
Yeah, and I think that's it. If anything, just to kind of round off the conversation, I just feel like, in summary, you're a person who's always lived to like the beat of your own drum, and that applies to every aspect of your life. And your image and the influence that you have on a generation is something that you've kind of built throughout your career, and is something that I think should be really respected and commended.
Oh, bless you. Thank you so much, darling. Thank you for having me today. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here.
It's been lovely just to chat. I didn't even need to look at my prompts because we just spoke the whole time. But yeah, in terms of what's next for you, obviously you've still got a bit of healing to do.
Still got a bit of healing. Yeah, I'm still very early doors into post-surgery at the moment, but doing very well. Thank you, my love. And I've got some exciting things in the pipeline. Hate to be that person that says I can't say it in a minute, but contractually I'm not allowed to say, which is so frustrating when you've got a big mouth like me. And I'm biting my tongue, which my tongue's feeling now with these veneers. There's only any tongue left, but it's so hard when I'm asked. But watch this space very, very soon.
And if people
something's exciting to be announced.
Well, I'm definitely going to be keeping my ear back for that. But in terms of if people want more of you, you're on radio, where can they get more of you?
So I host a radio show. My radio show is called Access All Areas, and that's on Fubar Radio every Wednesday evening, 6 till 7 p.m. And if you miss it live, it can be downloaded as a podcast on wherever you get your pods. So Access All Areas.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for taking the time. Genuinely, really, really enjoyed it.
Thank you, babes. Have a lovely day.
Best of luck.